Hey, what's good? Haha, this is Guillem. Good morning, everybody. I'm about to watch a video called How an Abandoned Village Was Reborn in the Spanish Desert. Hey, hi everybody. In this video, I'm gonna be watching this 14-minute long clip called How an Abandoned Village Was Reborn in the Spanish Desert. I must admit that I've been following Andrew Millison for 2 years now, and I thought the first time I saw his content, I thought, man, this is cool. This is what I would like to be doing, permacultural things, you know? So let's dive into it.
And create an ecological paradise with help from volunteers from across the world. It's been so successful that it sparked a movement of people working to restore ecosystems across the entire planet. I traveled to the driest part of Spain to visit Camp Altiplano at La Junquera Farm, the world's first ecosystem restoration camp. I was welcomed by the farmers, volunteers, and even the movement's founder, John V. Liu.
Thousands of people over the last 7 years have come here, and they're learning we can restore the soils, we can restore the hydrological cycle, and we can restore all degraded lands on the earth.
I could see right away that this is an incredible site. There are ponds, water catchment swales, diverse agroforestry systems, and even natural buildings. So I was eager to learn exactly how they restored a village. But I couldn't help but wonder, why was this landscape abandoned in the first place? It turns out that information is critical to understanding just why their project is so revolutionary.
This is called territorios abandonados. The young people have left and gone to the cities or gone to other countries because there's no jobs here.
Surrounding the rubble of abandoned villages, the landscape has become an endless expanse of mechanized farms.
As farms became bigger, people started to live in the city and only come here to manage their farm maybe once a month.
All over southern Spain, we see these almond and olive monocultures, these giant grids of trees placed over the landscape. It's a very degraded system, and it doesn't feel like a very welcoming place to live.
There's also the lack of water. The climate is getting worse, biodiversity is decreasing, the soil organic matter is decreasing.
This land has been worked over, and it's really apparent when you visit places like this.
There's a need to do something which is not just extracting from the land, but actually to bring back the system into a more resilient state.
You gotta have a lot of dedication to come to the middle of a ruined landscape and decide you're gonna try to do whatever you can to make it happen.
15 years ago, we started bit by bit rebuilding the old houses.
As they restored the village, they had a vision for how to make this landscape vibrant again, but not just for themselves, for the whole region. So they studied what the surrounding farms were doing and then transformed that model using techniques that actually restore the landscape while still producing food. They took me on a tour of their demonstration site along with a new group of volunteers to see exactly how their experimental farming system works.
So this is a playground really for learning about land regeneration. So you're gonna see things that usually you don't see on agricultural land in this climate. So this is 5 hectares. It used to be a cereal field, and in 2017, when everything started, the first things that they did were the earthworks and breaking the soil compaction. So to break the compaction, they worked with a deep ripper, which is a thing that you attach to the tractor, and it has blades in the back that basically cut through the soil. So instead of turning it like a plow does, it just breaks it. And in that way, water, roots, and oxygen can actually penetrate deeper. So we are here on the biggest pond. We are in the bottom of a larger valley. All the water that falls in this larger catchment ends up here. That's why they decided to dig the ponds in this area. So these are meant for big rainfall events. And there's 4 more ponds. Then the swales came. So the swales are trenches for rainwater harvesting and for controlling erosion as well. So we're now in one of our swales. It crosses the whole camp, it's on contour, and you see now as we go up the rim of the swale, we see the vegetation changing. The idea is to have a water harvesting structure, retain the erosion and create a micro ecosystem in here where you can have more moisture, different species.
Remember that this is a very arid, windy, and cold region where soils have been degrading for generations and plants grow very slowly. But getting a healthy and diverse ground cover to grow on such depleted ground is actually a huge step in shifting this whole ecosystem towards natural abundance.
They spread a lot of compost to increase organic matter, change the soil texture, and a mix of 30 different seeds for ground cover. And then we had the trees. So we have mainly almond trees because the system was designed to basically take the most common agricultural system you find in the area, but to add layers to that.
These techniques are revolutionary compared to what we see across southern Spain. These massive grids of trees placed over the landscape without any regard to the shape of the land. The effects that this has on water flow, erosion, soil fertility are really massive. It's a very degraded system that washes soils down below, which ultimately pollutes all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. Now, I understand why they do this. Economics. This is an exportable cash crop. But having such a massive area of a monoculture like this really creates a vulnerability for this region. When you have just one crop, you're not very flexible to the greater fluctuations of economics, of climate, of insects, of diseases. Monoculture is vulnerability. Biodiversity is security. And what we see at Camp Altiplano is that there's another way to produce these same crops that's more diverse and actually regenerates the landscape.
The goals on this plot was always to increase organic matter in the soil, the water retention, the biodiversity, while reaching this productive stage. So we are here in quite a special part of the plot. And the way it was designed was to think of a possibility to mechanize the system. So we have the line of almond trees and we have rosemary, lavender, and thyme. So they're alternated, which means that if, for example, you want to bring in a harvesting machine, you can do that and harvest all the almond trees without actually touching the aromatics. So these trees have been planted on keyline.
Keyline design is a water management and farming system that uses the natural contours of a landscape to improve soil fertility, control erosion, and much more.
The keyline is redistributing the water over the land. It's bringing the water from the spots where it would naturally concentrate the most and moving it to the spots where it would be least available.
This is such an interesting place to learn. I'm standing on a water harvesting swale. Here, we have a native ecosystem. Here, we have an experimental agroforestry system. And then in the background, we can see industrial almond production. All here in the same point. This is an extreme edge between all of these different land use systems where we can really see what works and what doesn't.
We have to restore all degraded lands on the earth. I know I've seen that it's possible, and if we can do that, then that's what we need to do. What does that look like? And if it looks like people having fun and working with nature and having dinner a lot and playing music and finding meaning and purpose, that seems to me like what it is that we need to be doing.
John D. Liu's vision and the work here sparked a global movement, and there are now more than 80 ecosystem restoration communities across the world. It's just people going out to the land, camping out, and working together to learn and practice land restoration.
I'm 50 years old. I have been fascinated by permaculture since I was in my early 20s, and it would have meant a lot to me when I was a young person to be able to come and volunteer at an ecosystem restoration camp and really get some great hands-on experience.
Volunteers of camp come here from a week to 6 months to a year, and some people stay a lot longer. They come first at camp, and sometimes they stay at the farm and they start in a job or something related to agriculture in this territory. Our farm used to have only one person full-time working here, and now we're 25 and 10 volunteers and 10 students. So this used to be an abandoned village and they took it out of the list of villages, and a few months ago we officially became a village again, so we're very happy with that.
The work happening at Camp Altiplano has obviously had a huge ripple effect and inspired people around the world. But I couldn't help but wonder, can these experimental techniques really be utilized on a more commercial scale?
The camp is a 5-hectare super experimental plot on our 1,100-hectare farm. And then we see, okay, can we use things that we try out at camp in a more conventional plot with more conventional machinery maybe, and make a compromise? And that is, for example, vegetation strips that are maybe not the full vegetation that we see at camp, but there are still vegetation on the fields, which increases the soil health there, reduces erosion, and it works. And we have a yield.
These techniques seem to be catching on, and it turns out the people at Camp Altiplano are part of a bigger group called the Alvalal Association, working to restore the entire territory. And they took me to a very special almond orchard in a village at the foot of the Sierra Nevada mountains to show me how this work is expanding across the region.
This is my family farm of my father and my grandfather.
After driving all around and seeing all of the almond orchards with the desert ground, it's so great to come here and see the green cover underneath these almond orchards.
With tillage, we lost the water of the rain and the soil. And here, with this cover crop, we increase a lot of the capacity of the water infiltration. We use 2 types of species, legumes and cereals, to increase the organic matter and fix the nitrogen, and increase the soil microbiology significantly.
Can you grow a cover crop like this without irrigation?
Yes, we can in both systems, with irrigation and not irrigation. But with some support irrigation, the regeneration of the soil, the growing of the crop is more than dry crop. But in both is completely necessary and good practice.
Go to a farm, go to a camp, do some volunteering somewhere and see that you do have a role. Every little thing that you do has an impact.
Are you ready to transform deserts, create lush backyards, and feed communities? In my almost 30 years as a permaculture designer traveling the world, I've put everything I learned into Oregon State University's online permaculture design course, or PDC. The PDC and PDC Pro are the ultimate ways to begin mastering permaculture. Me and my team guide you through over 20 assignments with more than 100 hours of top quality video lectures and resources, all focused on developing your own property or project throughout the course. You'll get personalized feedback from a dedicated instructor in a small group setting. People are always asking me, how can I be part of the solution? This is your starting point. Check the link below for upcoming courses and join us in creating a better world for everyone. See you in class.
cool story.